Well, you know what I will do is I'm going to turn over this next 5 minutes to Daniel Marins and unplug. And Daniel Marins, you've got something about David Frum and marijuana legalization. He opposes it. Why don't you explain that for a couple of minutes, and I'll join back in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not totally clear that David Frum opposes marijuana legalization. He's gotten together with Patrick Kennedy Jr., I believe that's his name, the former congressman from Rhode Island, to co-chair an organization called, I'm trying to find the exact acronym here, SAM, something about marijuana, and whatever, sanity about marijuana. I don't know what the acronym is. Anyway, that's not that important. But the important thing is that he's become an extremely vocal sort of voice right now in this debate in the wake of the recent elections in Washington State and Colorado, saying, look, this is not, we are going in the wrong direction on marijuana by making this more socially acceptable and enabling it to be more prevalent. We already have enough complexity and risk and anxiety and things that make life difficult in our society. Throwing another wrench in, at least culturally, to sort of make this acceptable, something which we don't yet fully know the risks in terms of brain damage, the risks in terms of physical and emotional addiction, is not wise, and that we're rushing to do this. And you know, I thought that, and I don't know that he also argues that the way in which it's been sort of the way it's treated legally of late is at this point a extremely light, and it's not very heavily enforced at any rate. At any rate, so it's not a pressing civil rights matter. He also doesn't think that it's as pressing, you know, that keeping marijuana out is as pressing a public health matter as, let's say, reducing gun violence, which he's also been very vocal about. But I think that it reflects an interesting perspective. I think that he's reviving a kind of conservatism of based on community values and based on tradition and based on moving forward slowly with careful consideration for how our public policies may directly or indirectly affect us. He quotes Edmund Burke saying that individuals don't just make decisions on their own, which I think is a refreshing perspective in terms of the contrast with sort of the rampant, vapid, individual free market libertarianism that is so prevalent on the right these days. Now, I do have some questions. I think that he may understate some of the consequences of the current prohibition of marijuana. One of the things that he does not talk about is how casual marijuana use can jeopardize essential financial aid for college. One of the things he also doesn't address is the possibility that it may not be zero-sum. So, for instance, there are some studies that suggest that in areas where alcohol has been made less available to teenagers, marijuana becomes more prevalent, and that has actually had a positive effect on the levels of violent crime, drunk driving, etc. So we're not just looking at the fact that we're just adding this to a new pantheon of American vice and irresponsibility, but that we're also dealing with a situation in which in which marijuana substituting alcohol could actually potentially have positive effects. And the third thing is just that, okay, let's say we legalize everything, we make things more transparent, we take away the forbidden aspect, and we talk about sort of, we educate people, we know how to regulate this stuff more clearly, the studies, the information that's out there, and everything like that. Let's say that were to happen. If we want to make our society really a less anxious, less dislocated place with less risk about it, we need carrots and not just sticks, is what I would say. And so Americans are working more hours than any country on earth. We don't have guarantees of health care, child care, education, you name it. And what I've seen is that the culture in which there are more other opportunities for relaxation and to take a load off, and a culture in which you're not feeling judged for doing some things like this, will be a culture in which marijuana will naturally decrease, because that's been my experience anecdotally in Europe. And so, David, I want to invite you to come on the show once again. We've had you as a guest in the past.
How I sounded.
Also talk about your new book. So that's what I have to say about that. And obviously, I'm a big advocate of marijuana legalization, but I've tempered that, and I'm interested in David Frum's perspective.
All right, good job, Daniel Marins. We pause now for our syndicated stations to catch up with us. You're listening and watching